folks, Dr. Mike Israel here for Renaissance Periodization Strength Training Made Simple, video number 9. How should you progress in your strength training? What do you do to continue upwards and onwards to actually get stronger week to week to week? Because training hard is one thing, but how much harder do you train than the last time you trained in order to ensure the best possible results? So first of all, where do you start? You want to choose a weight that's in your target rep range. So if you're doing strength-focused hypertrophy training, trying to get bigger for the purpose of getting stronger, sets of 5 to 10. Basic strength is sets of 3 to 6, roughly. And then peaking or limit strength is sets of 1 to 3. So you pick a weight that's challenging in that repetition range and do that weight for those reps for enough sets that gets you close to your maximum recoverable volume at the end of the mesocycle. So if you plan on training for 5 weeks straight before you deload, that 5th week should be really pushing your limits of recovery. If it's not, you need to raise the overall volume of work that you're doing. Now, that's where you choose your loads and your volumes. And that first week, you take those loads and you do them for around an RPE of 7, okay? Ideally, you pick specific target reps, like sets of 5, straight sets are totally fine, or you can sort of auto-regulate your reps based on RPE. So you walk out with a set of what's going to be something like 3 to 6, and you do reps until you hit your target RPE of 7, and as soon as you've hit, let's say, 5, RPE 7, and you're done. A lot of times it's easier to just have preset number of sets that you're doing and a preset number of reps per set. And then once you hit those, you modulate the load as needed. So for example, if you hit a set of 5 and it's really an RP 7, you really mismanage the weight. It's like an RP 6. The next set of 5, put a little bit more weight on the bar. And if that's an RP 8, take a little bit more weight next time. So your average load is an RP 7, but you adjust every single set. The details aren't super important. Just basically go in and hit sets in that target rep range for the RPE that you want. Super important. Point number 2, you write down all the reps and all the weight and all the sets that you've done. And then how do you progress? What do you do next time? So for next week's session, you want to add enough weight to the bar. Weight, not reps. Strength comes from more load on the bar. You can get stronger by doing something the same weight for more reps, but that's highly suboptimal. You want more load on the bar. So you're going to add enough weight to keep the RPE about the same, okay? Rating perceived exertion at least the same, never easier, or harder, raising it by 1. So if you did an RP 7 last week, it's okay to do a load that gets you another RP 7, but it must be more, or it can get you an RP 8. We don't want to jump from like 7 to 9 because that accumulates way too much fatigue. It risks injury way too much. You want slow and steady. So whatever weight you're going to increase, it's going to go up by enough to either keep that RP the same, 7, if you did 7 last week, if you did 8 last week, 8 again, or to go up by 1. So if you did 7, 8 is okay. If you did 8, 9 is okay, but never more than that. Just a little bit more of a challenge, pushing yourself a little bit more. And here's the big hard rule. Your performance this week has to beat your last week performance every single time. If you have to do an RP 10 from an RP 7 to beat your performance, something is wrong. So it should be just a little bit of a performance improvement to get you either the same RPE or just 1 RP higher. So trying just as hard and improving, or trying a little bit harder and improving, not blowing out all of your gaskets in that first or second session. Now, every single session continues on like that. You look back at the previous one. You did, let's say, 100 pounds for 5 reps RPE in week 1. All right, for 7 RPE, that's 5 reps in week 1. And then you need 5 reps again, same number of reps, probably an 8 RPE. 7 is fine too, but let's say 8. And in week 2, that means what do you put on the bar for week 2? Well, that's a guess and check game that you have to do based on your own insight. Warming up is going to be a big help, and then trying a weight and seeing how it goes. You'll know the amount generally you can put on the bar. For many of us, it's like 5 pounds per week. Sometimes it's 2.5 pounds, and for some big lifts like deadlifts and stuff, it might be 10 or 15 pounds. Try less first. You can always put more weight on in your next set and the set after that if you really undershot your RP. So week to week to week, you're putting more weight on the bar. You might be messing with sets, probably not messing with set number too much, same number of sets, a little bit more weight until you hit your last week. And if on your last week you hit RP 10 and you're super gassed out and there's no way you could do another week of PRs, deload, awesome, your average volume was good and your progression was good. Now, if that last week you hit an RP10, you hit a big PR, but next week you're like, yeah, I'm not that fatigued, I could try to hit a little bit more weight than this, then deload anyway, but for the next time you do that progression, do a little bit more volume, higher number of sets on average, because you're probably underworking, or extend your accumulation phase length, the length of your cycle, instead of doing 5 weeks up and 1 week's down, maybe at the same rate or the same amount of volume per week, you could do 6 weeks and get just a little more. That whole point there, that last one, is to make sure you're challenging yourself. You should be deloading only when you can't give any more to productive training. If you can still train productively, still train productively. So here's the deal. You want small PRs, a little bit more weight on the bar every single time you come in. And when you can't add a little bit more weight and work just a little harder, when you try to add more weight but the reps fall off, it's time to deload, time to drop that fatigue, recycle, repeat, and then onwards and upwards again from there. Folks, thanks for tuning in. See you next time for the next video.